Welcome back to Blue Collar Speed and Repair. We're going to be working on the Boss Lady's 63 Galaxie Ford 300 grocery getter today. So she got stranded again. Turns out this thing is not charging, so I had to get a jump box and get it started, got it home and all that stuff, and she's been driving it anyway, just carrying a jump box with her.
It works?
It does work. So this thing has the original voltage regulator and the original generator. To be perfectly honest, I don't know a lot about generators and voltage regulators and that kind of stuff. A little before my time. So we're going to try our best to convert this to an alternator. And you Ford guys are going to be mad because what I actually have is a GM style alternator. This would be off of any 80s or so small block Chevy. I think we looked up an 80 C10 or something. These are very simple. You have a wire to hook to the battery to charge, and then I have to double check, I don't remember which one is which, but you jump one of these to here, and anytime it's running, it gets its signal to charge. It's literally that simple. The other wire is for a charge light, for a dummy light. But we have a gauge, so we don't have to worry about that too much. So there are ways to test these regulators. You have your battery in, and then what's called a field wire that would send the signal to the generator. If you jump those, it doesn't charge still. If you test voltage at the field wire with the engine running at like 2,000 RPMs, it's only putting out like 3 volts anyway. I don't know them that well, but looking it up, that's not right. So I'm assuming the voltage regulator is bad. When we did try to jumper wire the battery to the field wire, sparks were coming out of the back of the generator. So I'm assuming both are bad with my very limited diagnosis. So I think we're gonna rip this battery out, throw it on the charger, and see if we can get this old stuff out of here. All right, we're gonna start with getting our voltage regulator out of here. This has 3 terminals on it. Again, I'm not real knowledgeable about this stuff. I know one is B+. I know the one goes to one goes over to the starter solenoid, which is this one, the black with the yellow stripe, which is what turns on our voltage regulator here. These other 2, I believe, go into the car, so we're gonna have to actually run these over to the battery, I believe.
Okay.
I didn't think about that. Ow. Or we already have the black and yellow stripe wire that comes from the solenoid over there. We could just hook that wire to this wire and just leave it. No. Alright, that wire that goes down, does something there. Let's see if we can get this unbolted. Okay. So, voltage regulator, some kind of magic and wizardry or whatever goes on in here. Again, I don't know how they work exactly. But we have, let's see, our main harness here that we're hooked to the battery signal. So I think we're going to have to hook that wire to this wire that goes over to the solenoid in order to give us power inside the car.
Okay.
Well, I'd have to look at a wiring diagram to be for sure, but they were both hooked to battery, so I imagine we need battery in there. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just guessing. Pretty much like usual. The rest of these wires that came from the voltage regulator, we don't need. This other alternator is internally regulated. So, now I guess we start pulling this generator out. And I have no idea how it comes out. There's like 14 bolts.
I'll supervise.
Shocker. All right. This isn't gonna fit.
I need a smaller one. I need a flashlight. Can't see nothing.
Even your dang flashlight. Here.
Thank you.
Happy?
I'd just like to see what's going on down here.
I do things by feel, mostly.
Oh, those are aluminum. Am I in your way?
No more than usual.
Okay.
Alright. Ground cable goes to this bracket. Start with getting that out of the way. We'll have to find a new place to hook the battery ground to. I'm going to try to reuse this upper bracket for support on the other alternator. I'll show you that when we get to it. The rest of this, I think we just need to loosen up. The adjuster is actually on the bottom, and these are the wrong size. Get these loosened up. I'm gonna need 2 wrenches again. Okay. 2 different size wrenches, because why not? All right, so this is basically the pivot point of the generator here. So I got those loosened up, and then there's a like an area it slides into to adjust for your belts. So we're gonna put this in the air real quick, loosen that bolt up, and see if we can drop this out of here. I wonder if we should just take these upper bolts all the way out.
Maybe.
Maybe we should. Let's find a place for your light. Hang on.
Here's the wires that come across from the other side.
All right. Old generator is out. Bracket's just sitting here. So had these bolts in here as a pivot. And then the other bracket is still in the car. And that has the slide in and out. So this would slide back and forth to adjust our belt. So we're doing away with all this bracketry, although this one we will probably modify and reuse. Again, we'll get to that. I did take a measurement. Where's the tape measure? Right there. from where we need to mount on the block to the center of the V-belt is 5.5 inches. I'm sorry, 5 3/4 of an inch. So if we line up 5 3/4 to the center of the belt, that's what puts us at, I'll take that, I don't have enough hands. That puts us at needing a spacer at 2 3/4 of an inch. Now they make kits for this. Of course, naturally nobody had one in stock because we needed one. But I do have, how long is this bolt? Why? Holy cow, why is that so long? Anyway, I have this, so I think we just cut this at 2 3/4. This should have a little tab. That's what that bolt is for. So we can add a little tab to that. The hole in the block that we need is 7/16. This would normally take a 3/8 bolt, so we do have to auger this hole out a little bit. And you grab the kit that only goes up to 3/8. So do we have a drill bit that will cut? That's the question. None of my drill bits cut. This has a sleeve in it that we're going to have to knock out first. Oh, maybe we don't. Yeah. Yeah. I grabbed a different, shorter bolt so we don't damage the threads on our new one here. That's almost even working. How long before this alternator breaks, do you think?
Is the bolt gonna get stuck in it?
Probably. I don't know. You think I thought that far ahead? No. What, are you new here? Excuse me. So, can we just yank that out now? Maybe. I'm still gonna have to drill. Alright. Well, that would be thinking, and I don't do that.
It's right next to you.
I know. I like to struggle. Okay, well, I'm just smashing it, so that's cool. I thought it was thicker material than that. Alright, so now I'm kind of just... There. Ow. Ow. Why is this hot?
second half now.
I feel like I'm cutting crooked here. You want your drill bits so dull that they won't even cut aluminum. Oh my goodness. What in the heck? Don't chuckle at me.
There's a vice right there and you're struggling with it.
What's the vice gonna do? Let me take this out. All right, we'll do it your way. That's hot.
Can we go get a different drill bit?
No, like I said, I want to struggle through this.
Well, if you want to struggle, why are you taking that out?
Because you said to use the vise. So we're going to use the vise. And then we're going to break this ear off. Then I'm just going to shut the camera off and go inside. Have an adult beverage and forget this ever happened. Ready? So yeah, use your vise if you have one. Makes life a little easier. Oh, make sure all your metal shavings go in your new alternator.
So I
There.
Perfect.
Done.
I think that's a little long.
All right. Joking aside, we're going to cut this down to 2 3/4. I think that's right. It'll probably be wrong just because, but so cut that to length. I have whatever this stuff is. I'm too lazy to cut all that, and that already has a hole in it. So if I kind of sort of center this, from the center of that hole to there, we need 7/8 of an inch. Let me guess. You put the marker away?
Yeah.
Jesus. So if we go center of the hole to that, give or take. This is just a little added brace. It's not super important. Got it. So I'm going to go cut a little curve out of that, cut a little curve out of that, weld that to that, and that part's done. Where's my cutoff go?
That sounds way easier than...
Oh, it won't be that easy. Should have cut the ends first.
Yeah.
All right.
Some pliers for your struggle?
So I'm going to take a pair of vice grips, grab a hold of this, see if I can just kind of auger these edges off of here, or grind these edges off of here, and then we'll see about welding it on. All right, got our piece cut out. Put a nut to kind of hold our little extension piece in place. That. Now let's see if I can poorly weld this on here. I'm sure there's some rule against welding on an alternator.
You could just tack it and then remove it.
I mean, all it's really going to take is a little bit of a tack anyway. Be more hot. Ow, that's hot. Wear your gloves. All right, well, that's not going to hold anything. Here you go. Not sure what this stuff's made out of, but it doesn't really weld. Went ahead and made this little jumper wire. So these are marked 1 and 2. I believe number 2 is what's used to excite the alternator or turn on the alternator. So we're just going to jump this over to battery. So anytime the car is running, it should have a signal to turn on the internal regulator, basically. The other wire would be used for a charge light or a dummy light. We're running a voltage gauge, so I'm not too worried about that. Welded this on poorly and got this just loosely bolted. So now let's see if we can slam it in the car here. Still got a lot of work to do. Oh, that's nice. Out of the box, sounds great. So you want to come look in here? Your light is conveniently in the spot. So we have a boss here on the engine block.
A what?
A boss.
Oh.
Not you. But a place on the block that has threads in it. Okay. That is a 7/16 thread pitch. So we're going to use this and attempt to thread this into there. Like that. It's just started, but with our measurements, we should be pretty close. I don't know if this belt's going to work. May have to do a little longer or whatever, but that should put our belt in line pretty well.
There's a flashlight in the way. Okay, so now I want to find some material to use this. So basically, the generator adjusted up and down. You see the slot? The the slot that the adjuster would slide in and out of, or slide across rather. This one obviously is going to swing left to right. So we're going to have to maybe extend this down some, I don't know. And obviously bring it over. So let me get this unbolted, make a couple little wrong measurements. So if this was tight-ish, we would need it to be what's happening? Call it 3.5 inches from the center. All right. We draw an imaginary line here. Something like that. All right, let me get this off and get it on the table. I'll kind of show you what I'm seeing here. All right, we've been having a shop meeting, 2 of us. This is the bracket that came off of what would be the generator. It mounted up here to the water pump, like that. And obviously that was the angle adjustment up and down. Now I need this slot to go this way. I know this light's kind of messing with things here. I need this slot to go this way. So I was trying to brainstorm on cutting this bracket up and extending it and getting the angle right and all that stuff. Also have, there's a bolt hole here in the block, so I thought about coming off of this way with a piece of metal and then welding this to the end of it. And then I found this guy. This is actually for an electric garage door opener. So I think I can just modify this piece of metal, cut it at, I think, this second bolt hole, which will put it kind of in that area. And then we decide where we cut it here, where my thumb's at, and attach the end of this little thing, little adjuster to. Make sense? Makes sense to me. I don't know.
That's what happens when you don't throw stuff away.
Yeah, this is part of being a hoarder. So I think we take this guy. Why are you shining at me? I'm not.
Star of the show.
Well, I don't know about that. All right, watch your ears. Up against the vise here.
You know, we have ear protection.
I was just thinking that. I always preach eye and ear protection, and I'm not wearing it.
It's right there on the drill press.
All right, so where's our other bolt that was in the alternator? There it is. All right. So if we take this guy, put it in there. The angle's a little wrong, but that's kind of against the timing tab. I wonder if we should let me pull this alternator over real quick and tighten that top bolt so we get an idea where we need to be. Okay, had a squirrel moment. I'm modifying what was the lower bracket before I tighten this thing down. I'm going to come off of here and attach so that this upper part of this alternator has some support, so not everything's relying on this one bolt. So I'm just drilling a hole, kind of eyeballed what I wanted. I cut that piece off of here. Okay. So we should be able to use one of these bolts that was original. Go back into here. Hopefully that will line up. Problem is, trying to line the bolt and everything up through the bracket. and dropping everything. I wanted a 5.5-inch bolt, but they didn't have one. I think that probably would have been the right length. This one's a little long, but okay. So now what? This needs to go. I don't know what I'm doing here. This needs to go in there. Probably do need a washer, to be honest. I don't know if I have a washer this size. I can do you one better. I can do a washer and a lock washer. We're fancy around here. Alright, now how do I get all this to line up with... Alright, so what if we took this side off? Now we're using our brain. I'll go get that. Alright, that through there. That through there. That's still loose in there. Now I'm stuck and breaking everything. All right, work with me. There we go. That's cross-threaded.
It'll hold better than your lock washer.
Mm-hmm. Is that bolt hole going to line back up?
Maybe. How's that gonna work for our pivot?
Maybe.
Yeah.
That shouldn't change anything on the bottom, in theory. It's not quite making it here. Alright, I'm gonna have to make that hole a little bigger, I think. Alright, pause, we'll be back. Alright. Made our holes a little bit bigger, went ahead and rounded this end off.
Also, they get stabbed in the hand with it?
Not really. I prefer not to. Alright, how will that line up? There we go. That should give the front of this alternator a little bit of support. Alright, me and the fan are not getting along here. Okay. Should give us an idea of what we're trying to accomplish. I don't believe those fins will No, they will.
I was gonna say
We're gonna have
something's
to,
touching.
yeah, we're gonna have to round that corner off a little bit, or start it and it'll just bend all those fins over, and we don't have to worry about it. Okay, let's get back to the bottom bracket. All right, so if we go back up to that bracket there. That goes there. That needs to be basically kind of there-ish, I feel like. So if we cut both of these, there's the yellow paint pen over there. So we'll cut both of these right like that. Okay. So I think if I cut that and that, well, this piece of this piece, we should be good.
Okay, we don't need the bend.
This bend.
No, but we don't need it.
We don't need
bend out this way.
metal bends.
Okay.
Oh. All right, I'm gonna cut these, kind of get them prepped here and tacked together, and we'll try it. All right, got this kind of lightly tacked together. Oh, wrong bolt hole. It's warm. I mean, the curve isn't exactly right, but I don't know why that wouldn't work. What do you think?
I think it'll do the job it needs to.
Timing tab's a little bit in the way.
What do you mean?
The timing tab here.
Oh, I see.
Ouch. All right, that's warm. That's in my face. All right, I'm gonna weld this and see if I can get my hand up in there to put this bolt back in. That wasn't fun to get out. And we got to regrind the top piece so it doesn't hit the fin. And we're a wire away from seeing this if this will work. All right, we'll be back. All right, got the bracket in. Our angle's a little wrong here. I ended up going to the same place we attached the upper bracket. Was originally attached to, let's see if I can get this, was originally attached over to that boss on the water pump, but I couldn't get the bolt started without taking the fan off and all that. This should work just fine for what we need. So you take this, let me get a pry bar. We do. Yeah. Yeah, well, that don't work. That allows a pivot up there. I didn't think about that, doing it this way. If that bolt is loose at all, allows this whole thing to pivot.
What if we tighten these and this one and then tighten the ones up top, see what it does? You still think it's going to have a problem with it then?
Well, vibration is going to make it loosen up.
Yeah. This one's got the...
This one needs to be triangulated. I'm just not sure how to do it and make the curve and all that stuff right.
If you flat a piece across here, would it make a difference?
No, because it's pivoting on the bolt up top. So if you look up through here, see, it's not actually moving here. It's moving up there.
Yeah. So you almost need something coming off over here.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, this is what happens when you have zero plan whatsoever. All right. Let me think about this for a minute. All right. After much deliberation, about 32 seconds, came up with an idea. More garage door parts. So this adjuster rod that we fabric cobbled together, the whole problem is being bolted up top, it's allowing it to pivot. So I think if we make a bracket out of this guy, which I think these holes will line up. Come around the front here. If we bolt this second hole here to there, I think those bottom two holes will line up. We'll cut all the extra off, and that'll keep that lower bracket, that adjustment bracket, in line and keep this bracket from being allowed to do that, which is our issue. So let me cut this up, get it bolted on here, and let's just see if this works. All right, that seemed to work pretty good. I don't know how well you can see in here, but triangulated, there's no good way to show you. Probably should have done it from the bottom, but triangulated that lower kind of adjustment up to here. There's no movement there now. Belt's nice and tight. Everything's snug down. Got to tighten this bolt real quick. And then we did run a wire up. I didn't have any red, so we're doing black, but that's all right. Tie that into there. That will charge our battery. This is our positive cable end. I already hooked the 2-3 wires together, whatever, over there, so we have power inside the car. So we're going to put a fitting on this real quick, slam the battery in, which is done charging, and see if we have a charging system. What size we got? This one? No, of course not. Oh, you're ready for that?
Oh, you were ready for it.
Not quite. We need just a minute. All right, so right in kind of that general vicinity.
Stuck a magnet to the fender.
Let's cut the plastic thing on there. I mean, it's not my fender. It's just a Ford. Just kidding. I like this car. Don't yell at me. All right, skipped ahead. Battery's all hooked up. Got our charge wire hooked up. She's raring to
Fired up. Hit it. All right. Setting at 14.5 volts. I'm sure the gauge in here says the same.
Yeah, 14.5.
Plenty of oil pressure, all that good stuff.
Yep.
Obviously it's cold.
60 pounds oil pressure.
All right. You can shut it off so we don't get carbon monoxide poisoning. All right. Successful. Yeah, sometimes you just got to use the parts that you have laying around. Companies do make brackets to put alternators on these engines. But today's Sunday, and we would have to wait for parts and shipping and all that good stuff. Sometimes you got to use what you got, and for what this car does, this will work just fine. Obviously, this isn't high RPM, but our belt is perfectly in line since we made a few measurements. Pulled the car outside here for a little more natural light. Hopefully you can see kind of what I ended up doing here. It's difficult to show, difficult to get the camera down in there. But you know, bracket up top to support the front side of the alternator. Obviously what we did for the pivot down there, and then this piece just triangulates that piece to keep it from moving side to side, and everything seems to be holding solid. Not 100% the correct way to do it probably, but nothing I do ever is. Again, there's companies that make kits to put like I think it's called a Ford 3G alternator and voltage regulator on this engine. They're kind of expensive for what they are. I'm in an $80 alternator and some stuff I had laying around and a little bit of hardware. So appreciate you guys watching. Again, I don't really show the right way to do things, just the way I'm doing it. So I appreciate you hanging out if you're still here. And other than that, like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff for the YouTube algorithm, and we'll see you guys next time.